"Evening, hon," Bethany chimed.
How was work?
He responded in an unenthusiastic manner. "I know you don't actually want to know, James, so don't pretend to care," she teased. "Besides, we have more important matters to handle tonight. Why haven't you gotten dressed? You know it's ritual night tonight." James sighed as he rose from the couch.
Do you think they will actually have someone for us to slaughter tonight?
Well, they can't exactly just continue picking up people from within town, now can they? It would become too obvious that people would be missing. I was talking to Heather about the issue, and I think I have a solution for it. An easy one at that. I doubt Andrew would be willing with his recent high horse attitude, but I don't really care at this point.
Jeez, Betty, relax. You're way too high-strung about it. We aren't the first set of members, and we won't be the last. You know I love it when you're angry. Especially while in your ritual clothes.
Really? Why do I bother with you? You're all about the kill, but you don't seem to grasp the real meaning of all our hard work. Remember, we introduce chaos to disrupt the banality of life to make aware what is truly important. I swear Andrew only brought you in because you may as well be a lumberjack.
Are you ready to go? We're gonna be late.
He responded quietly, sounding hurt. "Yeah, I'm ready for another evening full of excuses," she grumbled. As they drove up the ranch-style house, they noticed that there were fewer vehicles than usual. "See? The people are already starting to slack with their attendance. I'm going to take charge of helping us acquire new deserving targets for the ritual."
You keep going on about this. I know you were just itching to tell me what your grand master plan is.
She took that opportunity to step out of the vehicle and awkwardly accept the hug Darlene was holding her outstretched arms for. This was probably the most unsettling part of the whole meeting. It wasn't the fact that they stabbed people to death or strangulated them, but rather the potluck aspect that preceded the ritual. The dining room table was always filled with food beforehand. It was Vicky's smoked ham, Jimmy's scalloped potatoes, and James' prize-winning rhubarb pie. Bethany always showed up with the drinks. She was no housewife, no cook. She was the local dentist. Beyond that, no one knew too much about her. She didn't even know what made the family invite her for the first time to begin with. The extent of their interaction was that she was Darlene's dentist. Everyone piled inside of the now cleared-out family room.
Welcome, everyone. I hope you have all had a productive month. First, I must thank all of you wonderful folks that contributed to our feast tonight. Everything looks delicious, per usual.
Andrew, the host and head of the chapter, called out. "It involves the internet," Bethany whispered to James while Andrew tried to move the attention from the question of the sacrifice back to the food.
What does?
One glare from her was all it took for him to understand that she had gone back to the pretentious plan.
Oh. So can you please stop beating around the bush and just tell me already? This is getting annoying. I know how much you love to hype things up, but you're starting to bore me.
By that point, everyone was starting to disperse, and most were lined up at the dining room table ready to eat. She pulled him outside to the garden. The moon was half full and the air was beginning to get chilly early in the evenings, since summer was coming to an end. Andrew's home was unremarkable. It was just another home in a small suburb. 2 stories, 3 bedrooms, no kids. The basement had seen plenty of activity in the last few years. A rummy tournament, a ping pong showdown, a sacrifice here and there. The walls of the basement had never been stained with blood. Darlene, Andrew's wife, made sure of it. But the floor couldn't be helped at times. Bethany focused on the gardenias that were failing to bloom in the yard. Do you know how easy it is to meet people on the internet?
Yeah, Einstein, tell me something I don't know. If you're going to propose that we lure someone off the internet, then you are lost. We have discussed this as a family for months. Geez, for a second I thought you might actually have a novel idea.
Would you just listen before you make any rash judgments? I'm not talking about going on the internet and luring some sap off a regular dating site. I'm talking about going a little deeper. The last part was barely audible even to James, who was standing next to her. I've been doing some research on the deep web. They have their own version of dating sites down there. You find some really putrid and disgusting excuses for humans on there. Playful tone was now frigid, matching the look in his eyes while he stared down at her.
What were you doing on a dating site, Bethany?
Really? That's what you're going to focus on? Out of everything I just told you, that is what you are hung up on? Silence filled the air as one of the family members waved to them from inside. Both quickly feigned their brightest smile back at him. Through the fake smile, she broke the silence. First of all, I was not looking for anyone to hook up with in the deep web. You already know what I go on there for, and it isn't to replace what I already have at home. She blurted out. Being vulnerable was not something she was good at or cared to do often. The wind was beginning to pick up, and the trees in the backyard were rustling too much for comfort. It gave both of them the feeling that they were being watched by something hiding in the dark. Back to the issue we were discussing, she continued as they moved back into the house and into the dining room now that most of the members had made their rounds through the table. I was on the deep web making my usual rounds, and some guy under the name Goon324 PM'd me asking if we had met out in the abyss. Before you roll your eyes at me, trust me, I know how it sounds. How corny was that name? I thought the same thing. I was curious though, so I indulged the loser for the sake of the entertainment brought to me by a pathetic deep web dweller. I responded that it was quite possible because I run through many addresses on the web. He responded by sending me the link. I already knew that whatever he was referring to I had never visited. You know me, I don't socialize in the deep unless it's for business. James listened intently while they stood in the corner of the dining room nibbling on some muffins. To anyone observing them, it must have looked like they were having fun with whatever they were discussing. He took a sip of the strawberry lemonade and responded while smiling at one of the family members who was across the room.
Okay, and...
Well, I should have not been surprised, but truthfully I was. It was a deep web dating site, online cafe. Whatever weird fetish you are into, they have groups to help you find a significant other. One doesn't really think about the deep web as a centralized anything. I mean, I know they have their cannibal websites and their crush lovers, but I was surprised to find it all conveniently located in one place for them to find each other. It was some morbid and twisted version of matching in Cupid. Bethany shuddered at the thought of all the freaks in one place.
Ah, so this is where you want to acquire the sacrifices.
Yes, Captain Obvious, that is the place. What better place to reach people that need to be taught the value of life than the cesspool that is the dark web? She ardently declared. A few family members were starting to shoot suspicious glances their way. Andrew called out to everyone. The evening went by as both Bethany and James expected it to. Another month and no sacrifice. Bethany knew that she had to implement her plan before more family members drifted away. The following night, James found Bethany with her laptop out. Ready, babe? She pulled up the Onion browser. Look, since I know you're territorial, how about you talk to these losers instead of me? You probably know more of what they want to hear than I do. He pondered that for a second before vigorously nodding like a child.
Sure. I'll be sure to make this fun.
He smiled mischievously. Okay, well you do your thing and I'll go catch up on my Hulu. If you need anything, just let me know. 30 minutes later, he had his victim, which just so happened to be Mr. Goon. He handed her the laptop. White letters shone on the dark screen detailing all sorts of obscene acts and describing the connection he felt with James, disguised as Annie 720. Bethany read the glowing screen. Chat log. Annie 720. Hey there, fancy seeing you around these parts. Goon, 324. Do I know you? Annie, 720. Yeah, we talked on the Silk Road remains. Goon, 324. Annie, 720. You thought we had met on here before because my avatar seemed familiar? Goon, 324. You're into the Bitcoin trade, right? Annie, 720. Funny how you call it that. Yeah, I guess I am. Goon, 324. So what's good? Were you looking for some of my goods? Annie, 720. That depends on what you mean. Huh? Annie, 720. What are you into anyway? What kind of partner are you looking for on here? What's your fix? Goon, 324. A little bit of torture here and there, if you know what I mean. Annie, 720. Fun. If only you were closer, then we might be able to have some fun. Goon, 324. Closer. You don't even know where I am. I could be watching you through the window right now as we speak. Mwahaha. Annie, 720. Nah, I know more about you than you realize. You're approximately 300 miles away from me. Goon, 324. How you know that? You freak, that's not cool. Annie, 720. You know, for someone who dabbles with dealing on here, you sure are careless. Goon, 324. Nah, I have all the proxies. No one has ever been able to find me, and many have tried. Trust me. All have failed. Until you. What advanced hacking sorcery have you performed? Annie, 720. Yeah, I could show up at your house right now and you would be none the wiser until I had you tied up and squealing like a pig. LOL. Goon, 324. Oh, you know me too well already. Bethany had seen enough. She closed the laptop. The conversations continued on a daily basis for the next 2 weeks until James, posing as Annie 720, convinced the fool known as Goon 324 to drive 280 miles to meet Annie at a coffee shop 2 towns away. The day of their meeting, Bethany, aka Annie, chose to wear a golden-haired wig in a simple bun and a tight-fitting burgundy dress. A bit overdressed for the venue, but she had plans of taking him elsewhere. He found her sitting within the cafe already, even though he was 10 minutes early.
Annie?
He asked in an unsure tone. I'm better known as Jacqueline in these parts, she responded with fake cheer in her tone. She thought it was better to not use her name. Before Bethany stood a man about 5'7", small in frame with dark brown eyes and straight black hair. He seemed clean but had an air to him of inner turmoil. No one would have guessed by seeing him in person that he dealt hard synthetic drugs in the confines of the deep web. He had more of an accountant feel to him than a criminal that helped ruin lives. That's not to include everything he did to the women he slept with. They went through the motions of niceties and the usual first date banter. He ordered a macchiato while she pretended to sip on her green tea. She could tell right away that he already had goo-goo eyes for her. She could have suggested that they go anywhere in the world and he would have followed her. Which is why, to no one's surprise, he excitedly agreed when she asked him to go back to her place. She would drive. Of course, she would not be taking him into her home. She had borrowed one of the rental properties that one of the members of the family owned. A nice, lonely duplex far from anyone that could hear, since the surrounding properties were being remodeled. As they drove from the city, Tony's car, that was the name that she had been given by him, even though it wasn't his true name, was being driven into the bad part of town to be picked apart by the local scrappers in the morning.
Nice place you got here. How long have you lived here?
Enough with the meaningless chatter. That's not why you came here.
I'm surprised you were willing to meet me on your own, when we met in the most vile place on the planet.
He responded, changing the tone of the conversation. He was beginning to sound suspicious.
Aren't you afraid I might be some murderer or human trafficker? Those are a dime a dozen in the deep web. Plus, do my inclinations not scare you?
Yes, he was definitely getting suspicious. They would not be able to let him escape, and he would meet his end at the edge of an axe. A beheading was not something she was prepared for. Oh, I'm sure I've gotten to know enough about you to know that I have dealt with worse wolves than you. I was willing to meet you alone because I know that you are no real threat to me. She had now placed her coat on the chair and slipped a vial of GHB into her sleeve. She stepped into the kitchen and poured the entire vial into a tiny hole that her now hiding boyfriend had pre-drilled into the scotch bottle with a syringe. She knew Tony had a strong affinity for scotch and would end up drinking it one way or another. "Would you like a glass of scotch?" she asked while making it a point to show him the empty glasses. He may have been dumb for some things, but she did not want to take any risks that he would sense any reason to be suspicious. The less hassle, the better.
The company of a beautiful woman and a fine scotch. Who would say no?
He walked towards her and took the bottle from her.
I will do the honors of pouring the drinks, since you provided the scotch.
She knew he was just testing the bottle to see if it was open. He smiled innocently when the seal broke. "If you say so, I made sure to buy the good stuff." They sat on the couch while some jazz played in the background. She thought it would help him give in to the effects of the drug faster, so she could get the charade over with. She did not want it to go any further than the living room, and James would probably kill the guy too soon if he made too much of a move on her. He was listening and watching everything from the guest room through the hidden cameras. He moved in to kiss her, and for the first time that evening she was truly nervous. She thought that hopefully James would just allow it to happen, without running in to stab him. She waited a few seconds to see if he would be entering the room with the axe, but nothing happened. She gently pushed him aside, making her excuses that she needed to go to the restroom. She had had one sip of the glass and was starting to feel the effects of it, which meant that he had to be passing out soon since he had had a full glass. Just as she suspected, by the time she returned to the living room, he was unconscious on the couch. James was already busy duct taping his feet over the black bag for easy transport. "We did it, babe," she slurred.
We sure did. But are you feeling okay? You seem a bit unsteady.
"Yeah, I had to take a sip of the scotch so he would not get suspicious." Down Bethany went onto the couch, barely holding her eyes open.
I'll be back for you in a sec, sweetheart. I have to throw the goods in the car.
He yelled back as he threw Tony's body over his shoulder. As Andrew placed the bag in the trunk, he heard groans coming from within and noticed some slight movements. In a panic, he picked up the crowbar and brought it down, immediately regretting his decision. He wondered if he had killed the man and everything would have been a waste. He went back inside for Bethany, and while he placed her in the car, he heard movement in the back.
Great. He's still alive.
He mumbled. Now they just had to drive back to Andrew's house, and everything would be over. Andrew greeted James warmly when he stepped through the threshold of the house with the bag. After everyone was finished with their ritual meal, they made their way down to the basement. The wall was covered with plastic tarps. Everyone was ready with their masks in hand. The sacrifice was struggling and moaning beneath the bag that had been placed over his head. Everyone was waiting to take a stab at him as he sat secured to the chair. Andrew's voice boomed out to the crowd with his usual speech of the importance of the family and the vision behind it all. He asked Bethany to the center so that she could be the one to initiate the ritual. "Thank you, Andrew. However, I feel in the spirit of togetherness and humility that I should give this honor to my partner, James. Under the guise of one looking for a lover, I found this excuse of a human being." She pulled off the bag and forced Tony to look at her anger-filled eyes. Selling drugs to those seeking to disconnect from this world through the haze of opiates and hallucinogenics. We are here to remind others of their mortality and what it means to be alive, what is truly important. Tears began to stream down Tony's face. Just then, all of the members placed the burlap masks over their faces. The crudely black spray-painted smiley faces on them made Tony cry even louder. She handed the dagger to James, which he gratefully took with a menacing grin. With one swift thrust, he plunged it into Tony's stomach. His cry was stifled by the rag tied around his mouth. As he stabbed him again, James whispered into his ear,
And this one is for kissing my girlfriend, you douche.
The still weak Bethany stepped behind Tony and pulled his head back so that his eyes met hers. While holding a dagger to his throat, she declared, This one is for the women you have taken by force. I know everything about you, including your need to destroy the women you sleep with. Everyone joined in on the ritual soon, each one plunging their sharp weapon of choice into the victim. A puddle of blood and a maimed Tony remained after it was over. The faces of the family beamed once the ritual had ended. It had been much too long since their last killing. Now, they had no reason to fear ever having to wait such a long time until the next time. After all, the world needed the reminder that the family provided them with. The deep web was vast enough to provide them with the star of their next sacrifice, and the ones after that. Their chapter of the Sunny family cult would never be dry.
My mom was viciously murdered. I was the first one to find her. Those visions will never leave my mind. They'll always be there. And nothing I do can wipe them away. That was until the Looksee entered my life a few weeks ago. I was living with my grandpa at the time. He was getting older and needed someone to help him with his property. My mother joined us not long after. She was sick. My grandpa thought the extra help around the house would be nice. It was nice having the family together, despite my grandpa and mom fighting all the time. Especially about my older brother Justin, who skipped town a few years ago. I don't remember much about why Justin left our town and family. I just know that my mom didn't approve of his new friend and lifestyle. So, one day he just said fuck it and left us behind. That used to be the worst day of my life. Now, it's not even close. The day my mom was murdered, I went downstairs, but I didn't see any sign she was awake. No crazy cat coffee mug on the kitchen table, no cereal bowl. I thought, Mom never sleeps in. I remember the long walk to the guest house from the main quarters. I spent the walk trying to decipher the fresh carving on her wooden door. It was a smiley face with a line through it. I pushed the door and it opened, unlocked. I don't remember screaming, but my grandpa told me I wouldn't stop until the police arrived. My mom was on the floor, lying in a pool of her own blood. Her arms were covered in stab wounds as well, as if she was wrestling with the murderer for her life. Her face was contorted. There's no doubt that she left this world in agony. I remember the detectives telling my grandpa, "It's odd. The Sunny family cult never comes this far out for their victims." A few days later, we put my mom 6 feet under. It was a small, closed casket funeral. I was surprised. My brother, Justin, had attended. It was the first time I'd seen him since he left to go live with his new friends. Me and Justin used to be best friends, but it was weird seeing him. He looked so different. He showed no emotion at the funeral. I was hurt because I hoped to find comfort amongst my brother, the only other person who shared this pain with me. I found only anger. I wanted to scream at him. "Aren't you sad? Our mother was murdered." When I tried to bring up good memories of how our family used to be, he just coldly said, "The past is in the past. It's time to just let it go." After the funeral, Justin left my life again. Not even a week had passed when my grandpa was already packing up all my mom's things in moving boxes. Everything she had owned, every decoration she placed around the house, and even all the photos she was in. All he said to me was, "We need to let it go." I was so pissed. I felt like no one cared about cherishing my mom's memory but me. When he left to clear out the guest house, I saw a photo poking out from one of the moving boxes. The photo was of my mom and I at a restaurant on one of her birthdays. She looked beautiful in her red dress, and I looked so happy sitting next to her in front of a large white cake. I slipped the photo of my mom and me into my pocket. I wasn't going to let it go. After my grandpa had tossed my mom's stuff, the house felt barren and empty. I didn't speak to him for weeks because I was so angry. However, every night before I would doze off to sleep, I would look at the photo of me and my mom. It would comfort me as my eyelids got heavier. But everything changed the night the Looksee came to take a piece. I was falling asleep while looking at the photograph. That night, in my dreams, I was reliving the moment from the photograph. I muttered under my breath, "I miss you so much, Mom. Everyone wants me to let you go, but I can't." In my dream, my mom turned to me and smiled. "I miss you too, Ronnie." Her eyes turned completely black. Her skin got pale. She looked frightening, and her voice sounded ghastly as she screamed, "You need to let me go! Let's go!" My grandpa's voice snapped me from my dream. He was in a frenzy as he pulled me out of the bed and dragged me into the kitchen. I was preparing my tea when I found these in the drawer. My grandpa pulled out a pair of red fingerless gloves and laid them on the table. "Ronnie, I told you we needed to get rid of all of your mother's things and to forget about her. Otherwise the Looksee will come and take a piece," he said, his eyes filled with terror. The Looksee? Yes. It's a monster who dwells on those who can't let go of grief. That's why I was trying to get rid of everything that reminds us of your mother, to protect us, Grandpa said. I pulled out the photograph that I had stolen from the packing boxes and handed it to my grandpa. He turned the photograph around. On the back, in black ink, was, "If you yourself cannot release, it will come to take a piece." My grandpa looked at me in horror. It's too late. He's coming for you." That's when I saw it. My grandpa's night tea on the kitchen table. He was using the cup with the crazy cat on it. "That's Mom's mug." I looked at my grandpa, and just then, I saw a man. No, not a man. A creature in a suit, with a hideous smile stuck with hellish teeth behind them. Before Grandpa could react, he was pulled by the creature into the dark living room. I heard Grandpa's blood-curdling screams as the creature ripped into his flesh with his long fingernails. Grandpa managed to put up a fight and crawled out of the darkness, but he was immediately pulled back in by the Looksee. I quickly ran to the family room and took the photograph with me. I was in a panic as I heard it slowly walk towards me. I needed to get rid of the photograph before it took me. That's when I saw it. A fireplace. I worked quickly to get a fire started. The Looksee started to stretch out its horrible long fingers towards me. Suddenly, the fire blazed behind me, and I had to make the choice to finally let go of my mom. "I can release. You will not take a piece." I dropped the photograph in, and it slowly caught fire. The Looksee was still coming for me, arms outstretched and its mouth widening to show off its glistening teeth. I turned towards the fire and caught the last glimpse of the photo of my mother. I screamed. The Looksee dug its fingers into my right eye. The pain was horrible. It turned its hand and scooped around in my eye socket like an ice cream man trying to get frozen over ice cream. The Looksee slowly pulled its finger out of my socket. My right eye was pierced on its fingernail like a toothpick through an olive. The pain was unbearable as I fell to my knees. The Looksee retreated as the last bit of my mother burned away. I woke in the hospital. I was told that the police have no idea what happened, but they're investigating the Sonny family cult, the same group of people they believe killed my mother. But I know it was the Looksee. I still don't know what he or it is. All I know is that it was drawn to us. It was drawn to us by our inability to let go. Have you ever felt like there's nowhere to go after a tragedy? When my mom told me she didn't approve of my lifestyle, I just bailed. I had to get far away from everything. My life, my grandpa, my mom, and even my younger brother, Ronnie. He was the hardest to leave behind. Before my mom's funeral, I hadn't seen my brother Ronnie in years. So, when he showed up at the factory where I worked, wearing an eye patch, I was confused. What the hell had happened since I left? I'd missed my brother, and he obviously had issues. He asked if we could go somewhere private. I took him to the break room. My graveyard shift wasn't over, and I didn't have much time to talk. Hey, Ronnie, look, I'm sorry for the way I was at Mom's funeral. I shouldn't have told you to just let it go. I know it was a hard day for you, I said.
A hard day for me? She was your mom too? Are you even sad now that she's dead?
He asked. I paused and looked down at my feet before answering. Look, man, you know Mom and I were never that close. She and I never got along since Dad left. You were her favorite. She loved you, only tolerated me. Ronnie looked tired, worn. There was still some blood oozing from underneath his eye patch. I wanted to be truthful with my brother, to tell him about the community that had changed my life. Maybe recruit him. If it was inside me, it could be inside him too. I found something that has opened my eyes to the world. It showed me what the world could be. The world is sick and dark, but my new family has made my life a little sunnier. As I spoke, Ronnie shifted in his seat with unease. The silence was broken when the door creaked open. Ronnie told me to stop rambling about my new family and the sick world we live in. All he wanted to know was if I had it. The necklace my mom got me for my 13th birthday. I unbuttoned my work shirt and showed him. It was a gold chain with Mom and Dad's wedding bands on them. This made Ronnie visibly upset. You got her love. I just got heirlooms. But this angered Ronnie. That's when Ronnie noticed the tattoo on my hand. It was a symbol for my new family. It's a smiley face with a line through it. Ronnie was in complete shock. There was a fear in his eyes as he studied the tattoo. Do you want to know when I last saw Mom, Ronnie? I said. He replied with, We can't think about Mom. I only wanted to know if you had the necklace Mom left you. My new family trickled into the room, masks covering their faces, and gathered around Ronnie. They knew that Ronnie's blood had to be shed, since he wasn't one of us. I spoke as my new family closed in on him. The last time I saw Mom, I had to show her how sunny my life was without her. Let me show you too, I said, drawing the long knife I had used to kill my mother, and soon, my brother. But then, I noticed a face in the window behind Ronnie. It was facing in from the darkness. It had no facial features except for a giant toothy smile that stretched across the leather-looking skin on its face. The faceless man was wearing a suit. It looked properly terrifying. Everyone in the room froze at the ghastly figure. Suddenly, Ronnie lifted up his shirt to reveal his chest, or what was left of it. His chest had been cut up and carved to hell and back. It was fresh enough to see bloody tissue, but old enough to where it wasn't bleeding out. First, I thought it was senseless cuts, but then I saw it was actually a message. If you yourself cannot release, then it will come to take a piece. Before I could ask what the hell was going on, the faceless creature was in the room, like it had teleported. Latching its dark, gloved claws to the shoulder of one of my masked brothers in the room, his mask flew off as the monster shoved his face first to the ground and proceeded to bend him backwards at the spine. The guy howled in pain as his bones snapped. His tear-filled eyes peered into mine as his body shook with tremors and blood oozed out of his mouth and poured down his horrified, upside-down face, covering his mouth and nose. The rest of my masked family in the room fled, and I could still hear their muffled screams under their masks. The creature just stood in the corner of the room, silently smiling as the haunting ticking sound began again. My brother smiled and laughed at the blood and chaos around us, and then said, The Looksee has come to take a piece. I decided that he had to die. He was no longer the brother I knew. He was a lunatic. I raised my knife just above Ronnie's head, but before the blade made contact, the creature's long arm snatched my brother away from the knife's reach. I stumbled backwards, tripping over the guy that had been folded over. Judging by the noises he was making, I think he was choking on his own blood. Then, faster than the blink of an eye, this Looksee stood in front of me and swiped at my neck. It caught my necklace with its sinewy fingers and then yanked me close to its leathery face. It slowly smiled, revealing the horrors of its teeth. This was the Looksee. Then Ronnie appeared behind it, smiled sinisterly, and said,
I had to let go of Mom, but Justin, you're holding on.
The monster started to pull on the necklace and lifted me up off the ground. I was choking and hoping that the necklace would snap from my weight, but it just dug deeper into my neck. I felt blood rush away from my head. My skin was burning with tension. I wanted to plead for mercy, but I couldn't speak from the pressure of the necklace squeezing my throat. I felt blood trickle down my neck as the necklace broke skin. I could feel the veins in my forehead exploding. It was all too unbearable, but then I felt relief. All the pressure suddenly just washed away. I exhaled, but for the life of me, I couldn't inhale. In fact, I just fell to the ground. It was the weirdest thing. I saw my body and the bloody stump that was my neck. Then I saw Ronnie look right into my eyes. I had been decapitated. This was it. The end for me. I once heard an old wives' tale that a severed head can live on for about 6 seconds after separation. 1, 2, 3.